Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1257, 1257, Saturday. Actually, it's Sunday. Yeah, it is Sunday. October the 3rd, 2020. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, so there's really not a lot of official Spygate news breaking out in the last 48 hours. I didn't do a video yesterday. There really wasn't anything that much going on other than everything that's going on around Trump and Melania getting COVID, which, I mean, if you're going to get COVID and you're Donald Trump, that means you're going to be quarantined with Melania for a week and a half or two. For most guys in the country, being quarantined with Melania for a week or two wouldn't be such a bad deal. If you're going to be quarantined, I guess that's a way to go right there. That just goes to show you Trump always wins. Even when he loses, he wins. But anyway, that's been pretty much, absorbing all the oxygen out of the air for the past 2 days. So not much Spygate stuff came out. I was hoping that there would be more documents that regarding the earlier release in the week by John Ratcliffe that he talked about. But apparently he's still battling with Gina Haspel over getting those documents declassified. I assume Trump could override Haspel and just call on the phone and say, hey, look, stop fighting with Ratcliffe. Give him what he wants. So maybe it'll have to come to that. But I think Ratcliffe, even as the ODNI, he could actually overrule Haspel. But he probably wouldn't. He would probably take it to the president, be my guess. But either way, no more documents came out, so it's Saturday night, and I thought by now, if there were going to be any more document releases in regards to the earlier release, that would happen. I thought it would happen maybe Friday night or tonight, but nothing dropped. So anyway, we're just going to go ahead and roll with it anyway. But yeah, nothing really in the last 48 hours other than what's going on with the coronavirus thing around the president and Melania. So anyway, we'll keep watching that. Trump just did I just watched a video he just did from Walter Reed, and he looks fine. He says he feels fine, and so my guess is he won't be over at Walter Reed very long, maybe a couple of days, and I think he'll be back at the White House. My guess is he'll be pretty much hunkered down for about a week and a half, but I don't think they're going to be able to keep Trump down for more than 10 days or so. He'll be right back out there campaigning again as soon as he can, and of course we have the debate coming up this week, Wednesday night, with Pence and Legs in the Air Harris. And that's going to be more important than most debates, because most of the time no one cares about the VP, but because you have sickly, demented, seriously mentally challenged Biden, people are going to be paying more attention to Kamala Legs in the Air Harris. And she's a dummy. People say, well, she was senator, former, attorney general. Yes, she was, but not because of her brains or her legal skill. I believe that obviously it was other types of skills that she possesses that allowed her to achieve that level of upward mobility out there in California. Other skills that we won't discuss on this video. So anyway, that's what's going on there. Now let's go ahead and talk about something that has been out there for about 48 hours. I've been kind of watching it. Quite a few people have commented on it. The story has pretty much died since it, not died, but it's hit the wall. There's been really nothing new come out since it first dropped. And what I'm talking about is this tweet from John Cardillo. Now, John Cardillo, some of you may be familiar with him, some of you may not. He's a fairly regular guest. You see him a lot on Newsmax, and he usually comes on to comment about the Spygate story. Now, Cardillo, I think he spent 20 plus years in the Department of Justice as some sort of an attorney at the Department of Justice. Knows a lot of people there, has inside sources, has a lot of contacts there. He still lives in the swamp. He's still around a lot of those people, has a lot of long-time relationships with people inside the swamp. So he's got some inside sources, and that's why he's typically called on Newsmax to comment on Spygate. Now, the thing about it is that Cardillo, he's very much like a Tom Fitton. He has almost always, since he's been commenting on the Spygate stories, almost always raised, the issue that pretty much what Tom Fitton does, that he doesn't think that much is going to come out of it. That he thinks that it'll be mostly a cover-up, and that Barr and Durham are mostly head-faking. And he's just kind of on the pessimistic side, the glass half-empty side of whether or not there'll be people held accountable for Spygate. So he's been pretty much on the negative side of that when you usually see him on Newsmax. But on Friday night, or Friday afternoon, I should say, he puts out a tweet where he says, quote, "Can't say why without betraying a confidant, but I just had a big, capital letters, big, restoration of faith moment in AG Barr and Durham." Again, he says, "Can't say why without betraying a confidant, but I just had a big restoration of faith moment in AG Barr and Durham." Okay, so this set off a lot of people because everyone knows that Cardillo up to this point has been very much a glass half empty guy on Spygate plotters being brought to justice. Now all of a sudden he puts out this tweet where he says he's just had a big restoration of faith in AG Barr and Durham because of something he learned from a source, a confidential source inside the department. But of course he doesn't want to betray this confidant, so he doesn't want to drop their name or anything. But this is definitely a flip for Cardillo. So this got a lot of people talking, and then so the next 2 days, that Friday evening, Saturday, we've had multiple people come in and comment on this. Last Refuge, Shipwrecked Crew, Brian Cates, Jeff Carlson. There's been about a dozen people that I typically follow a lot who've heard about this tweet and have looked at it and have commented on it. And it seems like Shipwrecked Crew and some others seem to be following his lead, that what he may be talking about, what Cardillo may be talking about, is this, I guess, story, if you want to call it a story or what have you, a tip or whatever, that one of the Mueller team, special counsel team lawyers, is now cooperating and has flipped, if you want to use the term flipped, or cooperating with John Durham's investigation. And that's essentially what Cardillo, that's been vetted out, that's pretty much what Cardillo was talking about. He's talking about the fact that he's learned that someone from the Mueller special counsel team has either flipped or is cooperating with the Durham team. So that's got a lot of people, of course, scrambling around trying to figure out who this may be. Now, the top candidate right now, and this is coming pretty much from Shipwreck Crew, he wrote a story on it and lays out his explanation for why he believes it to be Brandon Von Grack. Von Grack. Now, Van Grack, of course, one of the Mueller special counsel team, but he was known as being one of the guys that came from kind of the outside of the group. He was a DOJ NSD lawyer who was brought in, typically not like a line prosecutor, like most of the rest of the people on the Mueller special counsel team were like line prosecutors or senior management level prosecutors or above prosecutors, whereas Brand Grack kind of came out of the NSD. So you're not your typical inline prosecutor. And also, probably mostly because he's the one that actually did the charging documents on, I believe, certainly on Flynn and on Stone. And, of course, we know that there were several things in the charging document that were literally false. And that's a crime. It's not just a mistake. It's, you go to put in your charging statement as a U.S. attorney or prosecutor something that you know is false, something that is proven false, that's a big problem. That will get you fired, could get you jail time and fines, could cause you to lose your law license. It's a career-ending move. And Brandon von Grack is a fairly young individual. Now, we know that the one glaring example of where he was caught, and one of the reasons why Durham launched into the investigation into the Mueller special counsel team, and what really opened the door for Durham and his investigators to come into the Mueller special counsel investigation, was the fact that Van Grack put in as one of the things in the charging statement that Michael Flynn had engaged in some sort of irregular or possible illegal behavior when discussing the sanctions with Ambassador Kislyak. And of course, once we got that released and we were able to see the conversation between Flynn and Kislyak, we at that point had the proof that no, Flynn never discussed anything about the sanctions with Kislyak. He talked about, they had a brief exchange of information and conversation about the Russian diplomats that Obama had kicked out of the country, but there was really no talk about the sanctions, only about the Russian diplomats who had been kicked out of the country. And so Durham has Brandon Van Grack caught dead cold making a false accusation in a charging statement in the case against Michael Flynn. And there are other things. I mean, that one's a slam dunk. That's just a slam dunk. And Durham saw all that stuff before we did. So that was a slam dunk. There's 2 or 3 other things in there that are certainly debatable as to whether or not they're legit. So Van Grack is being targeted right now as possibly this member of the Mueller team who is now cooperating. And so you have to ask yourself, why would a smart guy like that purposely, knowingly put something that he knows is false and likely will be exposed as false into the charging document? Well, there's about a handful of reasons for that. I mean, he could have believed that because of the number of charges and the pressure they were bringing on Flynn, that Flynn would never challenge any of this, and that he would just go ahead and plead guilty. This would be stamped, case closed. Flynn would, pay a fine or maybe serve 30 days or whatever, and it would be gone, dispatched and gone away, and nothing would ever come of it. Nothing would ever be challenged. He could have believed that was the case. Or it could be that Brandon von Grack was the person who put together the charging statement, but relied on other people on the Mueller special counsel team to provide the information, which means that Brandon von Grack could have been purposely given bad information, and he trusted the other lawyers on the Mueller special counsel to, be legit, but they gave him bad information, and then he used it. So it was a case of him, being used. And of course we know he was the guy that was kind of on the outside of all the other ones. And of course he was the guy who did the charging statement on Stone as well. So it looks almost like they used Van Grack to be their scapegoat in a way. They would have him write up the charging statements, putting in the false information. And then if something blows up on them, they all circle the wagons, stick together, and point the finger at Van Grack. That's a possibility. And it's also possible that you could go a step beyond that and say that, well, maybe the people in the Mueller special counsel investigation, maybe they were given bad information by FBI counterintelligence people. Maybe Loftman, maybe Peter's been stroking us, maybe McCabe, maybe they altered some document, maybe they manufactured something that wasn't true. Something happened that caused Van Grack to do something that a smart lawyer would never do, to take a risk he would never take. There's nothing in it for him other than downside, his career being ruined and possibly going to jail, being charged. Clearly, Durham had discovered this a long time ago because he would certainly have seen it long before we did. But this has been out now. The Flynn-Kislyak thing was dropped back in the 5 months ago. We've had maybe longer than that. We've had it out for a long time. So Durham's obviously known about it even before that. And of course, that would have been about the time that Durham went to Barr and said, hey, I'm now up to the point where special counsel gets appointed. And so where do I go now? Do you want me to continue? And Barr's like, well, is there anything leading you to continue on? Is there some reason, that you think you need to move forward? Is that where the evidence is taking you? And Durham's like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. It doesn't stop here. In fact, it might just begin here. So that's when he started digging into the special counsel and investigating that. Now, I'm not 100% sure that I'm on board with Shipwrecked Crew and Last Refuge and some of the others. I mean, they're probably right. They'd be in a better position than me to know. But they may be right. It may be Van Grack. It's pretty clear at this point. Enough people are in agreement that this comment on Twitter by Cardillo has something to do with some member of the Mueller special counsel team, at least one member of the special counsel team, now cooperating with Durham. Now, they're not saying it's because they copped a plea deal or anything like that, but just that they are cooperating. And the odds-on favorite right now seems to be Van Grack for the reasons I just went through. But I think that I also would suggest that maybe Aaron Zebley would be a candidate as well, because of what we learned about from Andrew Weisass. Of course, he writes this book. It's out there now. And the book is basically slamming Zebley throughout the entire book, blaming Zebley as being the reason why they weren't able to take down Trump. That Zebley was blocking Weissman, and that there was constant friction between them. And it even disclosed in the book by Andrew Weisass is that while we all thought that he was really the guy running the Mueller witch hunt, in the book he describes Zebley as being the senior person, or at least was the person that Mueller put in place to be the sort of intermediary between Weissman and the other investigators and Mueller. Weissman describes how he really couldn't get to Mueller personally very often. He had to go through Zebley. Zebley was the person between Mueller and Weisass. And Zebley was shooting down a lot of the things that Weisass wanted to do. He was overruling Weisass, making the call. In other words, he appears, according to the way he's described in Weisass's book, Zebley appears to have been the senior guy who would make the call of how to proceed or whether to do this or not to do this. He could overrule Weisass. And clearly, Weisass paints Zebley as I guess you would say, the bad guy, and the reason that the left should all blame, the guy they should all blame for why they couldn't take down Trump. Now, when you compare their careers side by side, you can see that Weisass is a slime ball. He's got an entire history of these kind of slimy prosecutions and things. Very dishonest, very disingenuous, very shady, very crooked. On the other hand, when you look at Zebley, he's got a stellar background. In all his years with the FBI, the Department of Justice, he appears to be a fairly straight shooter. And so when you compare their two careers side by side, certainly Zebley looks like a far more upstanding, honest character. So Mueller may very well, knowing Weissman's history, maybe he wanted someone aggressive like Weissman. I think that he may have been pushed into that by various people. May have said, well, we want Weisass to be the guy running this thing. He's really a pit bull. And Mueller, being weak, as we know he is, probably capitulated, but he probably also understood that his ass was on the line as well, and he wanted some protection, so he may have said, yeah, we can have Weisass running the team, but I'd like to have, as my point of contact and the person really guiding everything, Zebley. And so that is the picture that's painted in Weisass's book. And again, when you compare Zebley to Weisass, and their careers side by side, there's no comparison. Zebley appears to be a straight shooter, a career professional DOJ type guy, whereas Wiseass is a crook, basically, crook with a badge. So I don't know whether it's one of these two guys, both of these guys, or neither of these guys. But I think it is an interesting revelation, if in fact it is true, and I have every reason to believe it is true, because Durham has been investigating the Mueller special counsel team now for quite a few months. If there was nothing there, I think he would have moved on. But he's obviously still into the Mueller special counsel and his investigation. And then we had these documents leaked, or not leaked, but released and declassified, and they were released by by Durham, given to Barr, and Barr approved the declassification and the release. So clearly, they are digging deep into the Mueller special counsel, which I believe was likely the insurance policy. I think it was either the Mueller special counsel or the going after Michael Flynn. I believe one of those two things were probably what they were discussing about the insurance policy. Both of them look like what you would be talking about if you were talking about an insurance policy. Get Flynn or use Mueller, special counsel. So either one of those, I think, could fit that bill. But there's no doubt that there's a fairly deep investigation by Durham into the special counsel. There's obviously something going on there, and this revelation by Cardillo that he had this big restoration of faith moment as a result of something he was told by one of his confidential sources. And now it's been pretty well flushed out that what he was talking about is that there's someone from the special counsel team cooperating. That's big news. It's still not really been mainstreamed. It's still pretty much just being kicked around between a lot of the people that we all follow. Like I said, Last Refuge, Shipwreck Hoob, Brian Cates, Full Nelson, Undercover Huber. All these guys are on this, talking about it, kicking it around, trying to make sense of it, what they think. So I think it's a very good revelation. And I have believed for a long time that the Mueller investigation, whether it was the insurance policy or not, was certainly a continuation of the coup. It was certainly part of the coup. We have this witness testimony from this other DOJ guy, who Durham also was the one who gave that to Barr to release for the benefit of Sidney Powell being able to have this to go to court and represent General Flynn with this additional information. This guy, this FBI agent, case agent, of course, talking about conversations he had with Jenny Rhee and other people on the Mueller special counsel. There's additional information there that has not been released yet. There's more. We didn't see everything. We saw some of it. There's a lot more from this special FBI agent case who was in charge. So he obviously reveals some things. And so Durham is basically telling us, in no uncertain terms, yeah, I'm investigating the Mueller special counsel, and yeah, they were dirty. That's what Durham is telling us. He's found dirty people inside the Mueller special counsel team. And he's honing in on that as well as other things. Now he's also off on the Hillary Clinton emails. He's now got this letter, which he's probably had for a long time, that the Right Reverend Clinton was advising the CIA through an intermediary that she wanted to run this plot connecting Trump to Putin and Russia in the DNC email hacks and the release and all that kind of stuff. So this is all stuff that's coming out of the Durham investigation. And the fact that he's releasing it now means he's probably done using it. He's probably already used it in grand juries. He's already used it with witness interviews. And he's discharged it now and allowed Barr to declassify it and release it. So I think this is, in a way, to let people know that, yes, they are doing a real investigation. Yes, they are really looking into things. Yes, they are learning a lot of things. And while it looks like nothing's happening, yes, there are things happening. And So I think that's what that tells us. Because obviously I think Barr had wanted to come out. Maybe he wanted some indictments. Maybe he wanted some plea deals before the election. Maybe he wanted to put out this interim report. I think Durham probably pushed back really hard on that. And I think there was probably a compromise, and this is just all my opinion right now, probably a compromise where Durham probably said, well, rather than disclose where I am in my investigation, why don't, if the point is to let people know what really happened. We've already released a lot of things. There's been a lot of evidence out there. Most people pretty well got the idea. But there are documents I am in possession of that I'm done with that could be released that wouldn't affect my investigation. I've already used them in grand juries. I've already used them in interviews. It would not hurt me for some of this stuff to be out there, and I can still protect my investigation. Why don't we just release stuff between now and the election that makes it more and more and more clear of what went on? And that's what it looks like is happening to me. I'm just guessing. But anyway, yes, this is a fairly interesting story. I think it will probably gain traction in the week to come. I think probably people like John Solomon, people who actually do TV appearances, because you don't see Shipwrecked Crew or Last Refuge or any of these people on TV. But some guys who you do see on TV, or someone like Dan Bongino, who has a radio show, Solomon, maybe Sarah Carter, maybe some people like that, pick up on this over the course of the week. Maybe they do a little investigation of their own. Maybe they dig into this. Maybe they get some sources that confirm what Cardillo is suggesting here, or what people are suggesting Cardillo is referring to. So maybe we'll learn more this week. I expect that we will eventually get more releases of this information as it is declassified. Obviously, Ratcliffe's working on that now. He's obviously running into problems with Gina Haspel, but ultimately Gina Haspel is going to lose on this deal because Trump can override her. I think even the ODNI can override her, but he probably won't. He'd probably rather take it to the president first. So I think that we can expect that in the upcoming week. So I think that that's good information, and I think it's solid enough that I'll probably put it in my timeline. I try not to put rumors into my timeline. I try to wait till something's proven before I put it in my timeline. But I'll probably put this in my timeline. I feel good enough about it at this point. And also another bit of news. It looks like Andy McCabe, who had agreed to come in and testify. Well, I don't think he was. Well, yeah, actually, he was going to come in. He was actually going to come in to the Senate Judiciary Committee and testify. He didn't want to do it from home because apparently his lawyer, who is one of the deep state lawyers, who was on the in the DOJ, on the side of the coup plotters, is now representing McCabe. He was also one of the guys who represented Blasey Ford. Anyway, this lawyer basically says in his explanation that he thinks the witness looks better in a live hearing than he does from his home on a whatever you call it. I don't know what you call it, but anyway, he just thinks that appearing live is a better way to do it for his client McCabe, and now he's saying because of potential for spreading COVID-19, and now I guess because McConnell's going to shut down the Senate for 10 days or so, he's going to cancel, and says that he will reschedule as soon as the situation is clear to do so, and that will probably be after the election, would be my guess. So it looks like McCabe is backing out after he had already agreed, but he would probably be forced to back out now because after he announced that he was backing out for concerns about COVID-19, then McConnell came out a few hours later and made a statement that he was going to, I guess, shut down the Senate for 10 days or so, but that it's not going to affect the nomination process of Amy Coney Barrett, that they will reconvene on the 12th of October and they will move forward. But for the next 10 days, they're kind of, shutting down the Senate. So that's news there. But again, with McCabe, The thing is, you've got Rodenstein, you got Yates, now you've got Comey, all saying the same thing, which is, well, I didn't know anything. I just signed off on everything. I didn't know anything. I signed off on everything because I was counting on everyone below me doing their job, and so I'm signing off on the fact that I believe and trust the people below me have done their job. That's a bad plan. It's called a rubber stamp, and we should get rid of it. If you can't personally verify the information, you should not be signing off on anything. Or certainly you should not be signing off saying that you swear the information is correct. You cannot swear under oath that information is correct that you haven't looked at. You can swear that you're signing off on something that other people have looked at, and that you have high confidence that the other people looked at it. So that they need to work on that. There's too many signatures of high-level people who are allowed to put their signature on something that will never, ever have any, bearing on anything. Comey, McCabe, Yates, Rodenstein, all signing off on Carter Page FISAs, yet every single one of them are going to claim that they're not responsible. They signed off on it, but they signed off on it because other people they believe did their job. You see, that's no good. What's the point? What's the point? Why have someone's signature if they're not accountable? The signature, I thought, was to hold you accountable at the highest level. What's the highest level person who is actually accountable? Who does actually have to sit there and say, yep, I looked at all the information and believe based on all the information I saw, it was good. That's the person that should be signing it, and no one else. If you didn't look at the information, you shouldn't be signing off on anything. They need to fix that. So here you have Rodenstein and Yates saying, well, I didn't know nothing about nothing. Now you got Comey. I didn't know nothing about nothing. What are we to expect? McCabe's going to come up and say, yeah, well, I didn't know nothing about nothing. I was counting on all these people. And then what happens? You bring in Peterson stroking us, Bill Priestep, and they go, well, I didn't know anything about anything. I was counting on those guys. And then you bring in Pientka. Well, I didn't know anything about anything. I was counting on those guys. I mean, how far down the chain do we go before we finally get someone who signed off on something that actually did look at the information? My guess is the people who actually look at the information don't sign off on anything. So the people who look at the information, don't sign off on anything. They give it to someone above them who does sign off on it, who doesn't actually look at it. I mean, it's a contorted way of doing things, don't you think? It almost looks like the perfect setup to make sure no one can ever be held accountable when they run these type of phony operations, because I'm sure this ain't the first. Or even the second, if you know what I mean. So there we go, McCabe backing out. And of course, we didn't talk at all about the hearings for Michael Flynn on Tuesday, but needless to say, despite the DOJ sending over another high-powered lawyer to argue on their behalf, along with Sidney Powell, and despite the most recent declassification of documents by Durham and Barr given to Sidney Powell, with even more overwhelming evidence that the Flynn case was never a case, Sullivan is still persisting forward, moving on, completely ignoring all of this exculpatory evidence. He's just completely ignoring it, like it's just not even a factor. And it's hard to explain. I don't think anyone's got a rational explanation for Sullivan. I mean, this is just extraordinary. Of course, Sidney Powell said she would be taking it to the Supreme Court, although that, as far as we know, she hasn't done that yet. She may be waiting for Amy Coney Barrett to be confirmed, or it may be just legal hurdles that she has to jump over first. But she did say after the hearing, in fact, during the hearing, she actually said that she's going to make a motion to have Sullivan, to have Sullivan removed from the case. And that should have happened a long time ago. So we'll take a look in the week to come. I think there could be some things coming out this week that could further highlight the crimes. And hopefully by the end of this upcoming week, Trump will be back to normal practices, and we'll be 7 days closer to the election, in which I believe Trump's going to have a massive landslide victory. Be back soon. See ya. Bye.